Well, my name is Piyush, and this is video number 26 in 28 days of AC Terraform. We are almost at the end of the series, and in this video, I'm going to present you a special project, a real time corporate level project, which will have a lot of things. So, it will have the provisioning of AKS cluster for multiple environments using Terraform as well as Azure DevOps. So, we'll be creating end to end CI CD pipeline using that, and will be implementing git branching, and will be using custom modules for the Terraform resource creation. Right, we'll be creating AKS clusters, will be creating service principal, Azure keyword secrets, and many other resources with the help of the modular approach, which is like all these things are now trending interview questions and tasks that they give you these days. So I thought, why don't I wrap up everything in a single project so that you get end to end working of it, so that you get end to end hands on experience with it. But make sure you don't just watch the video, make sure you implement the video after watching it, or like you can follow along and do the implementation yourself. But the implementation is important because this is what helps you with the learning, this is what helps you showcase your learning in the interviews or whatever you are implementing. Okay, so let me just share my screen, and this is what we're gonna do today. Okay, as you can see, we have, yeah, I mean, this could look a little overwhelming at the beginning, but trust me, it will be easier. Let me explain it and let me walk you through each and every step. Okay, so as you can see, we have a Terraform over here, right? So earlier, when we did, I believe, day 20 project or somewhere where we discussed everything about um, AKS cluster creation using Terraform. So we did that with the help of like a manual uh, Terraform CLI commands, right? So a DevOps engineer would run the Terraform init, Terraform plan and apply command, and then it will provision the resources for you. So provision the resources such as resource group, Azure Key Vault, AKS cluster, service principal, with the contributor role assigned to the service principal, and so on. So these resources, all the custom modules will be created, but it was a manual trigger, right? We are not doing that anymore, right? We are automating the entire process, and we are adding few more things on top of that. So what are we doing? So whenever a DevOps engineer performs a commit on the Git repo, okay, it should trigger a build pipeline, okay, or a Azure DevOps pipeline that will provision the infra. Now it will have different stages, it will have different end-to-end flow. So I will show you that, but this is just a high level overview. So at this stage, all the initial static code analysis, all the code verification, unit test, integration test will be performed. But those tests, we are not doing that in this demo, but just to give you an idea. So this is where it will be performed when you merge the code in the feature branch. And then then based on that, as soon as it is merged into the main branch, I will also explain you git branching, don't worry about it. So whenever it is merged into the main branch, the dev deployment will be triggered. Okay, so an environment will be provisioned with the dev AKS cluster, with the keyword for dev cluster, with the resource group for dev cluster. So this environment will be provisioned, and it will use a dedicated tf state file. Earlier we were using only one tf state file. Now it will use separate tf state file for each of the environment. There will be one for dev, one for stage. Okay, and these both will reside in the separate storage account as well. We have to keep the tf state file separate from the environment so that there'll be less chances of accidental modification or corruption of the file or deletion of the file, right? We have to keep them separate. So that is done. Like once dev environment will be provisioned based on the stage completion, right? If the stage is successful, if the dev environment is provisioned successfully without any issue, then the stage environment will be triggered as part of the pipeline, as part of the next step. And again, the same thing will happen for the stage environment. Now we will have a separate pipeline to destroy the resources as well, because these both are known prod environments. So Let's say once your developers and once your pre-prod testing has been completed, you need to destroy the environment to save the cost. So for that, we'll be creating a separate destruction pipeline, and we have to provide the parameters like which environment you want to destroy at the runtime. Based on that, these environments will be destroyed. So that's just the high level overview. There'll be a lot of things that we'll be doing, so this could be a long video. I'm warning you beforehand, so make sure you watch it till the end. Okay, so let's move on to the next part. Next part is what we'll be doing. Okay, so we'll start with authenticating ourselves to the Azure, right, with easy login or whatever you're using. Then we do some prep work, some prerequisites, like we have to create the backend for dev environment, backend for stage environment. So I have written a small shell script for that. I will share you. And so this is what we're gonna execute to create our initial backend files. Then we have a look at the Terraform code. So this is already explained in one of the previous video where we have provisioned the AKS cluster, but I will walk you through it again. Right? Then we execute the Terraform code manually. So this is an optional step. I mean, we can do this, or if you are like, let's say if you are new to Terraform, then you can do this. But if you are already have watched all the previous video, then we can skip this step for now. Okay, and then we can just import the code in Terraform. Okay, we'll look into the branching strategy that we'll be using, and then we start writing the pipeline. So we'll create two pipeline, one for create the provision, one for provisioning the infrastructure and one for destroying the infrastructure. Then we execute the pipeline with the help of code changes, like we'll create the pull request, we'll merge the code, we change the code, and we see how the pipeline will be triggered. Then we finally destroy the resources. Okay, so let's do that, and let's go back over here. These were the resources. So these are the resources that will be created. Remote backend, there'll be a script that will be executing to provision these resources. Then these are the resources that will be created. AKS cluster build agent, I'm going to use a Microsoft hosted agent. But if you are facing any issues with provisioning it, because for the new accounts Microsoft has added some restrictions that you cannot use MS hosted agent, they have paused it temporarily. So for that you can use self hosted agents as well. I will share the link in the description how you can install self hosted agent by following the Azure documentation. It's pretty straightforward, so you can just follow it and you can have your self hosted agent provision. Okay, then we'll have keyword and secret created. We'll have service principal, resource group, and two pipelines, one to create the resource and one to destroy the resource. So that's what we'll be doing. Now, the branching strategy. Okay, so there are different branching strategy. Whenever we are working somewhere in a collaboration, right, we need to have some sort of branching strategies to make sure that we can all work together in a team, working on the same feature or on the same file, and to avoid any conflicts on the file and to avoid any changes that can be overwritten by someone else, right? So for that, we have to use some branching strategy. So there are different branching strategies. So we have trunk based deployment, we have Git flow, we have GitHub flow, we have feature branch. So each one of them has different use case. I'm going to explain, like if you want an in-depth video, I'll create a separate video explaining all the branching strategies. But for now, we will use feature branch. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll create the feature branch for each of the changes and then merge that back into the main branch. And once that is done, we can just delete the feature branch. So it is a simple and one of the most common branching strategies that we use these days. Trunk based is also similar to feature branch. It's just trunk branches are small lived. Like the feature branches in the trunk based deployment are small lived, short lived, usually few hours when you have to do deployment multiple times a day, like very frequent deployment. So then we use trunk based deployment. Otherwise feature branch will work just fine. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. So over here, okay, let me just, I think that's visible. Okay, so over here we have our main branch. Okay, So these dots are nothing but the commit IDs, right? So whenever we are working in a Git repo, every commit that we make will generate a unique commit ID. So these commit IDs will be important, so that if you want to roll back any changes, if you want to promote any changes, we can just directly use the commit ID, and we can go to the commit ID and see what changes were made to that, right? It is important to maintain the history as well. Now that's the white one is your main branch where your active production live code is there. Then you create a new branch out of it and call it feature 101. So this is where you'll be working, this is where you'll be making your code changes, this is where you'll be testing your code changes. When you create the feature branch and when you check in your files all the changes that you have made, so these tests, so this is not the exhaustive list, but like mainly these are the tests that will be triggered. So unit test cases, usually the automated unit test cases, static code analysis, integration tests, code quality check, test coverage, and so on. So all those things will be done over here. So it will make sure that your code does not break the production, or your code does not break the environment when you merge that code into the main branch. Okay, so all the prerequisites test will be done over here. So let's say when you are done with all these testing and everything, and you are ready to check in the code, so you create a pull request. Okay, pull request is a request that you make to the maintainer of the repository that I have done all my testings, and I'm ready to merge the code back in the main branch so that it can be deployed in the lower environments. Okay, so you create the pull request, and then someone from the maintainer team or someone from the reviewers team will review your pull request. If everything is fine, they will merge the request. Once the request is merged over here, it will be merged into the main branch, and that would trigger your CI/CD pipeline. So these are all the stages of a CI/CD pipeline. So with dev environment, okay, first let's say there are different stages for dev. You have Terraform init, Terraform plan, validate, apply. Once that is done, you can have some test cases to check if the infrastructure is provisioned correctly or not, and based on that your next stage will be triggered, which is test, and then finally prod. I mean, this stage over here, prod, this is subjective, like it depends on your use case, it depends on your release management process. Usually it is not automated. There is manual approval before the prod check, or there is a separate pipeline for prod, or like in many organizations, like this stage is different than the rest of the stages, right? So like for now in this demo, we'll be looking into this dev and stage provisioning. Okay, so the same process will be followed. Let's say some other developer is working on some other feature, or you are working on some bug fix, you will create a new branch which is again spawned from the main branch. You will make your changes, do the testing and everything, and then you create a pull request. The pull request will be then merged into the main branch, and that will trigger the pipeline again for the changes, and the process will be continued, right? So this is what we'll be doing. So let's start with the demo. Okay, so let me just share my screen, and let me keep the tab away. I don't need this anymore. So this video could be a little longer because I'm just sharing everything. So I'm not gonna edit even a single second of it. Even if there are some error, even if there is some issues, we'll fix that along the line. Okay, so let's go back over here. Okay, so we have our, I've logged into Azure portal. Okay, and this is the Terraform repo. So let me just open the repo and walk you through the Terraform code first. So day 26, this is the folder where there are all the files, and let me just open in a like web editor so that you will see the file hierarchy and everything. By the way, if you want to know the shortcut, so you press dot somewhere on the screen, and it will open that in a like read only VS Code type of thing, right? Okay. So lessons and day 26 is what we are looking for. So as you can see, we have different folders for different things. One folder for modules, which has AKS keyword service principle. Then we have one folder for pipelines, one for dev, and one for staging. Okay. So it starts from, let's say, dev pipeline. We are working on the dev pipeline. Dev pipeline, you go to main.tf. Now, what does it have? We start with provisioning the Azure RM resource group. So I cannot explain each and everything because it is impossible for me to explain everything in one single video. That's why I've created this entire playlist so that we can learn step by step. So I would highly recommend watching the previous videos, and especially the video about AKS. I think that was, yeah, day 20 video. So that is really important. But I'll try to explain whatever I can. So you start with creating a resource group, which is, let's say, RG1 is the internal name, and then we are using variables for RG name and locations. Variables are defined over here in the variable.tf. Okay, so here is RG name and location, and we have initialized it inside terraform.tf vars, this particular file, right? So RG name, service principal name, keyword name, so those are defined over here, and you can make the changes as per you. Subscription ID I have left blank so that you can input your own subscription ID. So let's go back. So this is resource group. Then we start with the service principal. For service principal, we have created a module named service principal. So if you go to module, and the location is like source over here, right? So you go to one directory back inside modules and inside service principal. Now there is the service principal. In that, we again have main.tf output variables. So inside that, we have the logic to create service principal resource. So the same format that we use for any Terraform configuration, resource, and then Azure AD application, which is resource type. This is the internal name, display name, and this is how we create the service principal. Okay, and then we basically assign a role to it. Okay, app role assignment required, this. Okay, and then we go back to the dev pipeline again, which is this one. Service principal is done, and here is the role assignment. So we are assigning contributor role to the service principal. We'll need to provide some additional permission based on, let's say, whatever it needs. So we'll see about that. Now modules, the next module is key vault. When we create the service principal, it will generate some key ID, it will generate some secret ID and access keys. So we have to upload those secret and confidential details in some key vault as a secret, right? So for that, we are creating the key vault. Okay, and this key vault will be created by service principal, and we have to provide the service principal reference over here. And again, there's a dependency. That means this resource is dependent on the previous resource, which is service principal. Now we have Azure Key Vault. In like we are creating the Key Vault basically to store that service principal. I mean, Key Vault created over here, but then we have to create a secret inside the Key Vault. So this resource is creating the secret inside the Key Vault, and it has a name and a value. Name is the client ID, and value is the client secret. And this is the Key Vault ID, the unique ID that gets generated when you create a Key Vault. Okay, we are taking the reference from the key vault ID resource, which is over here, right? So once this is created, it will create an ID for the key vault, and that ID we can access from module.keyvault.keyvault ID. Okay, then we create the AKS cluster using the same AKS module that we have it over here, right? And then we create a kubeconfig file. So this what I have already told you, like this is I have explained very well in the day 20 video. So I would highly recommend starting from there if you don't know about the modular approach, or if you don't know about the custom modules, how it works in Terraform. Okay, so this is for dev. The same thing is there for stage, right? For staging environment, there's the same thing. There's main.tf and all the other files. Then inside the script, we have dev.sh, or like prerequisite.sh, whatever you want to call it. So what it will do, it will basically create two storage accounts and two resource groups. Oh no, one resource group. So one resource group that will have, you can create separate resource group as well if you want. But for now, I have created one resource group with the name Terraform Stage RG. Inside that, we have two storage account, one for staging, one for dev. And inside both of the storage account, I have created the tf state file. So I've created the containers, a blob container, one for staging, one for dev. Okay, so this is where we're gonna start with. So let me just open my Visual Studio Code and let me go to day 26 over here and open in the terminal. Now let me just change the terminal prompt. Put ps1 is equal to, this is just to change the terminal prompt. Oh, what did I done? Okay, export ps1 is equal to Piyush. Okay, now my terminal has been changed to this. Now I'm inside day 26 directory. That's cool. Now I have to go inside script and basically execute this prerequisite.sh. Now it might ask you to log in first, AZ login. I have already logged in, that's why it did not ask me. But this is where you do an AZ login or export the variables to do the authentication to the Azure environment. Okay. Now it says it is running and it will provision all the resources like the prerequisite resources for you, one resource group, two storage accounts, and two blob containers. Okay, so let's wait for a couple of seconds and it should be done shortly. Okay, let me pause the recording while it is doing it. Okay, looks like it is done. It says it is created. So let's go back to the portal and see if it is actually done or not. So go to resource groups and Terraform state RG. I guess this is the one. Yeah. So if you want, you can check what resources it created from here. Resource group name is Terraform state RG. Yeah, so this is the one, Terraform state RG. Okay, and then it has two storage account, TF dev backend and TF stage backend. Like it should be 2025 now. But I have used the previous name. I don't know why, but that's okay. So inside that there should be blob containers. So go to storage browser, blob containers. So there is the blob container for TF state. Okay, same thing, it will be there for the other one, which is stage. And inside that storage browser, go to blob containers. There is one TF state for blob. So we have created two TF state file for each of the environments. Okay, so that was the first prerequisite. Let's see what was the next one. The next step, I guess, is to create the pipeline, but let me just quickly have a look. So uh, yeah, import the code in Terraform. Okay, import the code in Azure DevOps. So we'll start with the Azure DevOps now. So this is my Azure DevOps project organization. So this is something that I have used. As you can see, there are many projects already there for each of the days. So this is part of Azure DevOps series. So if you are new to Azure DevOps, I would say start from there, because again, I cannot explain everything about Azure DevOps in this single video, but I'll try to focus on this particular real-time use case that we are looking into. Okay, so we'll start with creating a new project. Let's click on the new project, give it a name. Let's call it day 26, 28 days of AZ Terraform. Okay, and we're gonna keep this a private repository. Let's use the same description and hit create. Okay, it's not gonna take a long time. It's gonna take just few seconds. So yeah, it's done. Okay, while I was completing my sentence, it already completed it. So I think you got the idea. Okay, Now over on the left side, you will see an option called repos. So this is a Git repo that it comes with. So you go over there and import the existing repo from here, right? So this repo that we had, um, okay, I now I don't need the VS Code editor. I just can go to the repo, click on the code, and from here I just copy the URL to import the repo. Okay, now there are many options like clone to your computer and push the existing repository, but this is what we need: import a repo. We already have a repo created, so the repo type is git, and over here you can just paste it. Because it's a public repo, it does not need any authentication, so just click import. Now it might take a couple of minutes, so let me pause the recording. Okay, it took around 30 seconds and then it imported the repo. Now we have our git repo over here. It has all those things. Now the next thing is we're gonna work on creating the pipeline. So go to the pipeline, hit on the pipeline. There is a build pipeline and release pipeline. So we'll be working mostly on the build pipeline. So go to the pipeline and hit create a pipeline. Now we have created the pipeline. Now where is your code? Our code is in the Azure repos git. So click over there, and this is the repo. So it has it is showing you the repo that you have. If you have multiple repos, it will show you over here in the drop down. So this is what I need. And then um do you need any existing Azure pipeline YAML? So because I already have that pipeline YAML file inside that, I could just import that, but I want you to see how do we create it from scratch. So that's why I'm gonna use starter pipeline. Okay, so this is a starter pipeline. Now it will have different things. It will have triggers, pools, stages, and so on. So let's walk it one by one. So first is a trigger. Okay, trigger is where when the pipeline will be triggered. Okay, so now the trigger is on the main branch, so any changes made to the main branch will trigger this pipeline, but we don't want that. We want some additional features to it. So let's remove this, and let's do a double space or the tab and then use branches. So we want the trigger to be added to certain branches on certain path. Okay, so let's use branches, and we need like we have to add whether you want to include the branch or exclude the branch. So let's use include the branch. And what all branches? We need main branch, that's our first branch, and then we have feature branch, feature star. So any changes that will be made to main branch or the feature branch will trigger this pipeline. And then we define these things in the different stages, like when that particular stage will be triggered based on the branch name. Okay, so you can just remove the feature from here as well, but I have just kept it because let's say if you want to further improve this pipeline to add some more stages like static code analysis, your code quality checks and so on, then you can just use the same one. Okay, then we have paths. So you go to the same level as branches. Okay, over here, and then you can just include paths. Now you include in which path you want to include. So again, include, and I want my pipeline to be triggered whenever there is any changes in the lessons day 26 inside the same folder. Otherwise, like let's say even if you oh wait let's say even if you make any changes to a readme file, it will trigger the pipeline. We don't want to do that. Okay, so this is what we are doing day 26 inside that, or any changes to the Azure pipeline. So let's use, this is the default name for the Azure pipeline. So Azure pipelines.yaml. Okay, so now we have included the trigger and the path. This is the prerequisite or the pre build that we did. Okay, now next comes a stages. So we'll have different stages inside the pipeline. We are creating a multi-stage pipeline. Each stage will have different job. Each stage will have different agent pool that we are using. Okay, so I'm gonna show you that. So inside the stages, let's add the first stage. which is um let's call it validate. Okay, first we're gonna do the Terraform validate. Okay, so this is the validate stage. Inside the stage, now we have jobs. Job, and the difference between a stage and the job is a stage is a collection of multiple jobs. Okay, and why do we need to divide a stage into multiple jobs? So that each of these jobs can run on a separate agent if we want. If we have multiple agents, multiple build agents, so we need to have separate agent pools or agents, so that these steps will be executed on a particular job based on the requirement. For example, there is a step that needs to be run on an agent with Terraform installed. So we put that inside one job. If we need to execute a step that needs a Windows machine, right? So we execute that job inside the Windows agent and so on. So we divide all the work as per the requirement. Okay. So we have different jobs. So first job, let's say, is TF validate, and then inside the TF validate we specify the agent pool. So this we can use the same pool, but it has to go inside the job. Okay, job pool, and then finally we write steps. Steps is the actual work that it's gonna do. Okay. Okay, so now the first step should be Terraform install. So you click over here, you bring your mouse cursor over here inside steps, and then you click on the show assistance. When you do that, search for Terraform. Okay, so Terraform tool installer, select this step. If you don't see these tasks over here, then you need to go to your Azure DevOps organization and install the Terraform from marketplace. Okay, it's simple step. You can just search it and you will find it. You can install it. Okay, so click over here, Terraform tool installer, and like the version, you can select the version that you want. Let's use the latest version and click add. Once you do that, the task will be added over here inside the step. Okay, so that's the first step. The next step is you need to do initialization of Terraform, which is Terraform init. So again, we need to do that inside same job. That is okay. Terraform installation installer is done. Now the next task. So again, go to the next line, go to make your cursor, like bring your cursor over here at the same level of the first task, and you search the Terraform again. Now select this one, which is used to execute the Terraform commands. Click over here. Azure RM is the provider, and you can select the commands from here. This is init. We are doing Terraform init, and you are doing inside system.default working directory slash lessons. So make sure you make the changes. Lessons, and inside lessons you have day 26, and this particular stage is for dev. So day 26 and then dev. So this is the folder that you need. And do we need any additional command argument? No, but we need the backend details. So backend service connection, click over here, select your subscription and hit authorize. It will create a service connection for you based on the access that you have. Like I am the admin for this project, so I have access to create the service connection. So this is what it did. It created a service connection with the Azure portal. Now you should have access to the resources inside the portal with the help of this service connection. So click on the resource group over here, and the resource group that we had for stage, the one that we created, Terraform stage state RG. Okay. And then the storage account, we need the storage account for dev, which is TF backend, this one. Then we need to select the container. Container is TF state, and then we can enter the key. This is the file name, the file that will be created for Terraform state file. Okay, so for dev, let's call it dev.terraform.tf state. Okay, once you have filled everything, click on add. Okay, as you can see, the Terraform task for initialization Azure init has been inserted over here. Okay, let me remove these things. Okay, so we did okay, so we did Terraform init, Terraform installation, Terraform init. Now we can do the Terraform validate. So again, go to the task, the next task, and search for Terraform again. The Terraform commands, instead of init, choose validate, and validate inside the same folder, lessons day 26 dev. Okay. Okay, we don't need any additional arguments. Click on add. Another task has been added for Terraform validate. If it is pretty easy to create the Azure pipelines if you understand the structure, like how it is grouped into different stages, how it is grouped into multiple jobs, and what steps do you need. That is important to understand the flow. Like first we need Terraform init, then we need Terraform validate, then we need plan, apply, and so on. So it is important to understand the fundamentals first, and then you can create the pipeline easily, because we have this assistance over here that will generate the code for you, based on the input that you provide. And it has, as you have seen, it has also provided you drop downs and everything, right? So Terraform validate is done. Now we can create a new stage for dev deployment. Okay, so now we have to go to the stage level. Okay, so it's at the very beginning. First stage was validate. Now let's go over here and let's create a new stage, and let's call it dev deploy. Okay, now we need to add some conditions to it. What are the conditions? That it it has to be executed on a particular branch, let's say main branch, and it also dependent on the successful completion of the previous stages. Okay, so for that you can just add the condition and start with and, because we'll be grouping multiple conditions together. So and inside and you can use an Azure DevOps function called succeeded, and it's a function. So just add the parenthesis and then equals variables, and inside the square bracket you add your source branch. I'll just write it down and then I'll explain what it is. So you add build dot source branch, and then you add refs has main. Okay. Okay. So now what it is doing actually, it is, let's talk about this variable first. So what we are saying, variable build dot source branch, this is an inbuilt variable for Azure DevOps. So we are saying wherever this build is running and whatever is the source branch, if that is equal to refs had main, if that is your main branch, so we are using this equal function over here, or the equal, and this is a whole expression. So inside the expression we are saying if this variable is equal to this, and because we are using an and over here, this is again a conditional expression. If that variable is this and the condition is succeeded, like the previous stage is successful, then trigger the next steps. Okay, so that's there, and then we go to the next line which says jobs. Now we need to specify the job pool again. So let's give this job a name. Let's call it Terraform apply dev. Okay, and then add the pool and then hit enter, and then VM image is equal to Ubuntu latest, or you can copy the one that we have created earlier, right? This one, pool VM image Ubuntu, same thing. Okay, because we only have one agent, the one that we are using, so that is why I have added it over there. Now again, so there is the job Terraform apply dev, and inside that we have pool. Now we need to add the steps. Okay, steps, and the first step will again be Terraform installation, because the agent will be destroyed as it was part of our previous job, the earlier agent. So we need to install it again. And like we have to do that for every stage if we want to have it executed for multiple stages. So this is what we're gonna do. So steps, and click over here. Now go inside tasks, search for Terraform in it. I guess we don't need this, it should automatically add it, but let's see. Azure RM init. Now lessons, day 26, dev, and then service connection, resource group, or you can just copy the previous stage of Terraform init, that will be also the same. Dev backend, container is tf state, and the key is, let's use this one. Okay, now it has to be over here. Now click add. Okay, so it has added the task for Terraform. Oh, we needed the Terraform installation first. So let me just copy this task from here. Okay, so let's add it over here. Did I do a mistake? Let's see. Okay, I guess it has to be, yeah, there was an indentation issue, so I fixed it. Let's change this as well. Okay, so we have task input, which is Terraform version. Then we have next task for Terraform init. And now we need to create another task for Terraform apply. Now we can just apply the changes. Search for Terraform and the command, and instead of init, now we need Terraform apply. Terraform apply, it has to go inside the same lessons, day 26, dev command. We have to provide the additional command for auto approve, I believe. So hyphen auto approve. Okay, and provide the service connection. Okay, click add. All right, so our stage for dev is completed. Now we do the same for test. Now you have to go at the root level because our stages were over here, right? It starts from here. So I'm gonna use the same indentation and then create a stage, and now the stage will be stage, let's call it deploy. Again, add the condition. Let me just copy the condition from the previous stage because this is what we want. We are not changing the branches. Okay, so let me just copy this entire condition, paste it over here. Now the condition is the same: succeeded, build.source branch refs head main. Okay, and then we create the jobs. Now the job one will be Terraform apply. Terraform, like the job name, let's call it Terraform apply, but then we have to do the installation again because it's a separate job. Terraform apply for stage. Okay, and then let's go to a new pool, VM image, Ubuntu latest, and then inside that we're gonna create our steps, Terraform installation. So let me just copy from the previous stage and then we're gonna make the changes. Okay, so Terraform apply, init, installation, we need all these steps. So let's copy it, paste it over here. Okay, did I make a mistake? I might have. Let's see. Where were we? Terraform apply stage, so task. Okay, so this has to go inside this. Let's indent it further, and then we have the next task is Terraform. And okay, I have to make some indentation, but if you are facing the same, you can just, like, it will be easier for you to just generate it from the guide over there, but then this is also okay. What did I miss over here? Okay, I might have deleted it accidentally, so let's just make the changes. Okay, now we have task which should go at the same level of the previous task. Then we have input. So basically I had to add it two spaces in every line. Okay, this is done. Now let's make the changes as per the stage environment. So we have stage deploy, um, apply stage installation is okay. Then Azure RM init instead of dev, now it has to be stage. Okay, and instead of dev backend, we have to stage backend, tf state, and then stage terraform tf state. Instead of dev, we have stage. Okay, so let me just have a quick look at it if we are missing anything. Let's go back and check our code as well. So lessons day 26. So we have, oh, the directory name is staging. Okay, so let's make the changes. Instead of stage, it has to be staging, and over here as well. Okay, I think rest is good, should be good. Okay, so let's save the pipeline and create a new branch for this commit. Let's call it feature 101. Okay, or let's call it feature, because we have the branch that we create feature slash and then some name. Okay, so let's call it feature slash feature 101. Okay, and then start a pull request, save and run. Okay, there are some errors. Why there are some errors? Because there are some indentation issues or some issues, some syntax error at line 44 or 47. So let's click on the edit on line 44. Terraform apply dev. So the job over here, inside jobs. Oh, my bad, sorry. Inside there is jobs, and then inside jobs there is job, so I forgot that. And then line 47. Oh, yeah, I guess that was it. Let's validate and save. Unexpected value at line 48. 48 is steps. So inside pool we have added step which is part of jobs, but why it is throwing the error? Unexpected properties steps. Oh, yeah, there's an indentation issue again over here. So pool has to go inside at the same level of job. Okay, and now this step should be at pool level, I guess. Yes. Okay, so it changes everything. Now I have to move it two lines further, like every single line. So let's do that quickly. That's why it is easier to like write the code in VS Code, but then you won't get this beautiful thing over there. That's why it's fine. So I'm gonna just move two lines further, and I guess this one is okay. Yeah, rest is okay. Let's click on validate again. Unrecognized value succeeded. Okay. um oh, there's a typo over there. So succeeded SUCCEEDED. Okay, now I'm gonna change over here as well, and then hit validate again, and now it is valid. Now we are saying commit directly to the feature branch. Let's hit save, and let's go to the pipeline. It triggered the pipeline, and now it will throw some other issues. So let's see. Why did it trigger the pipeline? Because we have added the trigger on the feature 101 branch as well, right? So let's click on view details. um Configure the trigger. Okay, configuring the trigger fade, edit and save the pipeline again. Let's see. Okay, it says permission needed. This pipeline needs permission to access the resource before this can continue. So click on view and hit permit. We are granting the permission to service connection to trigger the pipeline for us. Okay, permission granted. So the first is Terraform validate. This is done. Then initialize resources, check out the repository, it will perform all the steps. Then Terraform, let's see what it is doing. Okay, it is installing Terraform task. Okay, so it has checked out everything. And this stage is completed. Now it says the job is pending. Okay, now why do you think this is happening? Okay, just pause the video over here and just have a look at the pipeline and you will get the answer. Okay, so I'm just gonna give you 3 more seconds. 1, 2, 3. Okay, if you have found it already, that's good. If you're not, I'm gonna explain it to you why it did not trigger the rest of the stages and why did it skipped it. So if you check the code that we have, let's see over here. So this is basically the same code that I have just written. So the pipeline is triggered based on any changes to the feature branch, right? That is what it did. Then the first stage will be triggered, which does the validation of your Terraform files. Okay, like with the tf installation, tf init and tf validate, all the configuration is valid. But then when it goes to second stage, which is dev deploy, it checked whether the condition is successful of the previous stage, which it did. But then it also checked one more condition, which is if the build.source branch is main, if the build was triggered on the main branch or not. It was not the case, right? So this condition was not successful. That's why it skipped the entire stage. Move to the next stage, which is over here, and it basically has the same condition. It skipped that as well because this was also not successful, right? So that's what it did. Now you go to your repos and over here pull request. Okay, there is a pull request created. Now you go to the pull request, you review the files, like there is a new file created with these many details. Now you approve the pull request. Okay, so there are different merge type. There is merge fast forward, no fast forward, rebased and fast forward, merge and fast forward. Default one is cool. Now it also has some other checks which says delete the feature branch after merging and complete work item after merging. We don't have any work item associated with it, but yes, it will delete the feature branch. So let's complete the merge. Okay, and would it show you everything? So yeah, it says completed. Let's go to overview and let's go back to our pipelines. It should trigger a new pipeline now. You see, just now it triggered a new pipeline because now we have, and it was based on the pull request merge. Now it should not skip those stages. So these are the stages that we have. We have validate stage, dev deploy, stage deploy. Then it has certain jobs. So jobs are tf validate, app dev and apply stage. First is successful, which was validate. And second is queued. that means it is under progress. Okay, go over there and initialize backend. It is doing the things. I'm sure there'll be some errors after this, but let's see if we face any issues. I'm hoping that we face any error, because what's the learning without the errors, right? Oh, there it is. I should have asked something else. Okay. It says invalid function argument while calling. So dot ssh pub key does not exist, I guess. Okay, so we have to create a pub key. Okay, so let's go back to your files over here, lessons, day 26, and it did not throw the error for subscription ID. Like, did I added my subscription ID over here? Let's see. So dev, my subscription ID is not there. Still, it is taking. Okay, we'll see it later on. But for now, it is throwing the error for the SSH keys, right? So inside module, let's go inside the module of AKS, and then main.tf. Where is the SSH key? Okay, so SSH key, it is taking from var.ssh public key, which is inside the variable, and it should be inside .ssh directory. So we don't have it over there. That is why it is throwing the error. Okay, so what can we do about it? It should be like .ssh should be inside that directory on the server itself, right? So where we have uh, copied all the code. So let's do that. Let's check in. Like, it's not a good practice to check in your public keys in the code repo, but for now let's just do that. So let me just create a new key over here in my terminal. So let's call it ssh keygen. Okay, okay, it says already exists. Let's overwrite it, and then I'm gonna get, oh, I need, okay, cd users Piyush.ssh. What's the time? 7:29. Okay. And inside that we have created these keys now, or we have our pub key as well. So maybe we can use that. I guess pub keys are not supported by Terraform anymore, but let's see. I mean, the RSA keys are not supported, but we'll see about that. So let me just copy the content. Okay, and over here, dot ssh directory inside that. So let me create a dot ssh directory inside new folder, and let's call it dot ssh. Inside that, let's create a new file and call it id rsa.pub. Okay, let's create the file, add the content over here, and hit commit. For now, let's trigger let's commit directly to the main branch, because we have already seen how do we do that, how do we create the feature branch and make the pull request for now. Okay, so let's just commit the change, and now the changes has been committed inside lessons day 26 folder, so it should trigger the pipeline, and it did. So let's see it now. This is what I'm most interested in. So this validate stage can take around 16 seconds or so. So let's wait. TF validate is done. Let's go to TF apply. And checkout is done. Terraform installation is in progress. And the next step was Terraform, blah blah blah. Okay, now it says some other error. Oh no, it still shows the same error. Invalid function argument, invalid value for path, no file exists, dot ssh id rsa pub, but I have created it already. Let's see. Inside lessons day 26 dot ssh id rsa dot pub. I think we have to provide the complete path because it is going to the root directory of the repo. I think that's what it is happening. So either move the file over there at the root or change the path. So what I'm gonna do is I can just create the file over here, new file, and then call it .ssh. Inside that id rsa.pub, create, upload, commit, done. Now let me just pause the recording while it is going to that stage. Oh, it did not trigger the pipeline. Oh, because that's not part of the trigger. Okay, so let's change the path inside that because this root directory is not part of the trigger. Trigger we have added inside lessons day 26 folder only, right? So let's go inside that, and the path is day 26 ssh blah blah blah. Let's go inside the pipeline script. Our pipeline is there at the root directory. Oh. Okay, over here, click edit. Now, oh, no, not this one, sorry. Inside lessons, day 26, dev, and then terraform.tfrs, no, variables. Where was it? It was inside, okay, it was inside modules. Okay, sorry about that. Variables over here. So let's change the path over here. So it should be lessons, inside lessons day 26 dot ssh id rsa pub day 26. Okay, commit to the main branch, and let's hope this error should be fixed now, and then we can work on the rest of the errors. So I'm gonna pause it now. Okay, so I am back. Actually, I had to go and drop my daughter at the daycare. So now I'm back and I'm resuming the recording. So looks like it failed again. Let's see if it is the same error or a different one. Okay, so the same task, and we can see, oh, we have a different error this time. So it could not create the application and it's insufficient privileges. So this is some permission issues, not the same error that we were facing earlier. So that error is fixed. So what I did basically, to fix that error, I actually, if I show you the repo, I have actually added the .ssh folder inside the dev directory over here. You see, and then I've updated the variable which was part of modules, make as variables. I've updated this variable to the original value. So .ssh id rsa pub. Now, because our pipeline's default working directory is lessons day 26 dev, inside dev, right? So when I do this, it will check it inside the dev directory itself. So that's what I did. And I have to do the same for staging as well, which I'll do probably. But first, I have to fix the error that we are facing right now. Okay, so let's look at the error once again. So it says could not create the application Azure AD insufficient privileges, right? So I'm facing issues with creating the service principal, right? Resource group was created successfully, but then while creating the service principal, it was throwing the error. Now, to create the service principal, I believe we need more than the contributor access. So let's have a look. Azure creates service principal, and let's see the permission it would need. Okay, so this is what we need. You will need application dot read write all permission. Okay, so inside, how do we get that permission? Let's see. I am at role assignment. Okay, no, not this one. I believe we should be able to figure out from the portal itself. So let's go to portal, and the service principal permission. Okay, so let's go to the. We are creating this with the help of a service connection. Okay, and that principal permission should be somewhere in the Azure portal. Okay, so let's go to Entra ID. Okay, this is from where we manage our service principal and app registrations. We don't have any app registered, I guess. This one was what was created for the service connection, right? So we need to assign that app some permission. And if we click on manage and API permissions, add permission, I believe this is the permission that we need. Okay, for Microsoft Graph, application permissions, and let's application read write all. I believe this is the permission, application read write all, as mentioned over here. So sufficient privilege to create an application with your migrant and assign the application role in your Azure subscription. To complete this task, you will need application read write all permission. Okay, and mm, let me just double verify it if that's what we need. Okay, application read write permission Azure. Okay, let's go to our old friend Stack Overflow, and I have registration. So it says below API permission to the manager identity and able to access the application. So I have to go to that application permissions, and then a Microsoft Graph is the API name. I think this is what we have selected. So that should be okay. Read write all, add permissions. Okay, and it updated it. Now we also need, I believe, we added contributor access. We also need key vault administrator access. Okay, so for that, let's go back to our uh, dev code, and inside the modules, we have service principal. Is it? Yeah. So over there, we need to add, no, no, not over there, in the main dev.tf. Okay, so we have added the contributor role. I believe we need to add the keyword administrator role as well, because it should have the access to create secret inside the keyword and able to administer the keyword, right? Contributor role will only grant you to create secrets inside the key vault, but to be able to create the key vault itself, you need to have the key vault administrator role. So what do is I'll just copy this, paste it over here, and role assignment is, let's call it role KV. Subscription is this. Role definition is okay. So key vault administrator role. Okay, and let's find out the role name. uh, Keyword administrator. Okay, and okay, let's go back. Role definition name reward administrator to the service principal. That should be good. And once that role is created, only then the keyword should be created, right? And this keyword should be dependent on this resource, dependent on keyword administrator role dot role kv. I think this should be good. Okay, let's commit the changes. Okay, so the changes that we made, we added the API level permissions to the service principal. So this service principal is what was created when we created the service connection. Okay, this is not the one that is managed by Terraform. Now we triggered the pipeline. Let's see what's been going on in that. I hope you are having a good learning experience so far. Like, I don't have any issues showing you error and troubleshooting. In fact, that is what I always try my best to do that. But lot of you have already been requesting this, that do not trim any error, do not remove any troubleshooting part. So this is what we are doing. Okay. And plus, this is an experiment I'm doing. Like, to just publish the raw video without any changes, without any editing. Let's see how it performs, and based on that, we'll see how our next video is gonna be from now on. Okay, so let me just check keyword admin and intra. Okay, now the Terraform installation is done, but this also failed. Um, it still is facing the issues. So for that, we need I guess, some additional permissions to create the service principal. Azure AD application. um so it's still throwing the error even though we provided the permission. We might have missed something. Let's see it over here. um okay, here what we provided the permission application read. Oh, I understand it now. You see, it's over written over here. There's a banner with the warning sign. You are editing permissions to your application. Users will have to consent even if they have already done so previously. So there's this additional step that we have to provide. Okay, and it says status not granted by default. So click over here. Not over here. So let's click over there, and there should be some option to provide the consent, because it says admin consent is required. How do we do? Oh, over here, grant consent for default directory. Let's provide the consent, hit refresh. Now it says granted, and let's trigger the pipeline again. Let's manually trigger it this time, because ideally we have not made any changes, or we can make the changes like we were supposed to make the changes in that um the staging folder, right? So let's make those changes. Day 26, staging, and then we have variables. No, main.tf. Okay, we have to add that, and there's inside dev we added .ssh folder. So let's add inside staging as well, file, and then up new file name is .ssh. idrsa.pub create. Oh, not this one. Let's copy the permission from my terminal. Okay, copy. Let's go back, paste it over here, commit, and we need to add that role assignment as well in the staging. So I'll do that afterwards. Let's see. Okay, now it should complete the Terraform apply dev stage. So let's just pause the video for a few seconds. Okay, so it worked this time. So just a quick recap, but what we did, we copied the .ssh folder into the dev directory and staging directory. Then we added the role assignment for key vault administrator to the service principal, and we also granted permission application read and write. Then we granted the consent for it. Right, so that's all the changes that we did, and this is the older one, I guess. Yeah, this is the newer logs. It's still creating the cluster. It has created the service principal, assigned the roles to it. These are the both the roles, role for service principal and like the contributor access and the keyword administrator access. Now it's creating the AKS cluster, which will take some time. Meanwhile, what we can do is we can create the pipeline for destroying the resources. Right, so let's go back to our pipeline section. Okay. Oh, that's the repo. Let's go to pipelines. Let's create a new pipeline. Where is our code? Azure Git repos, just the same repository, starter pipeline, and here we are. Right. So this time we need to provide some additional details. Um, because we need to be like we need to provide users ability to select which environment they want to destroy, dev, staging, or so on. Right. So just give me a second. Okay, so we don't want it to be triggered automatically, right? Because it's destroy operation, it's not provisioning. So let's use the trigger as none. We don't want any trigger, we don't want it to be auto triggered. Then we need something, not this one, we need something called as parameters, right? So we want user to select the environment that they want to destroy. Okay, so let's call this parameter as environment. Okay, let's give the type as string. Okay, and then the valid values are dev, okay, and staging, and we need to provide a default value as well. So let's use the default as dev. Okay, if we don't select this parameter, the default dev environment will be selected. Okay, and let's remove these things, and you can copy the syntax if you want from the previous pipeline, the one that we had. So let me just copy it. Where it's still running, that's all right. Let's open this in a new tab. Sure, pipeline. So what we need is stage, and let's copy it till Terraform install or Terraform init, and then we'll make the changes accordingly. Okay, all right. So stage is now we don't need validate because it's validated already, right? We are destroying the resource. So let's call it destroy dev. Oops, I did a typo over here. Destroy dev. Now the stage is destroy dev. Then we have different jobs. So first job is, let's call it plan destroy. Okay, so that you will know what is it is destroying. And then we have init. Okay, so dev, rest everything will be the same. We are using the same init file, we are using the same init configuration. Now let's use a task, and this time we're gonna use terraform plan. So in the command terraform plan, and it should be lessons Day 26 dev, no additional commands, just the service connection. Okay, hit add. So Terraform plan is done. Now the next is Terraform destroy. Do we need to do the plan? uh let's see, we'll see. Okay, so plan is done. Now the next stage is Terraform. We can directly do destroy now, because otherwise it will, like, it won't do anything, or like you can see what resources are destroyed if you want to have a look. So okay, let's keep it, and then change this name then to Terraform destroy to plan. Okay, that was plan destroy, so let's use the same stage name, plan destroy. Okay, so whichever environment you have selected. Okay, so now it shouldn't be dev, because we have used a parameter over here, right? So let's use the parameter. I believe the syntax is dollar and then double curly braces, and then parameters or params. Okay, let me check. Yeah, it should be parameters dot the name of the parameter, which is environment. Okay, and use it everywhere there is dev. Okay, over here and over here as well. Dev over here. The yeah, I guess that's good. And then over here. Okay, so that the same stage will be used for whichever environment it is, whether it is dev or stage and so on, right? So now this is done. Now the next is the next stage, which is destroy dev, destroy environment, let's call it, because ideally we are using the same stage for it. Mm, 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 mm. Okay, so we need, again we need init, and we need the Terraform installation, and from here. Okay, so I've copied it. Now let's make the changes. So it should be, as it says, stage is destroy environment, job is, let's destroy it. Terraform init, uh, init, and then params dot environment. This is good. Params dot environment. This is good. So we did installation and init. Now Terraform destroy, the final step. Okay, search for Terraform again. And then select the command destroy. Directory is lessons, and then day 26 for environment. Just for environments. Okay, we'll make the changes. Additional argument is auto approve. Otherwise, it will prompt you, and the pipeline will be waiting for the input, which we cannot provide from there. So add. Okay, now let's add this parameter as well after day 26. Okay, I guess this is good. Now if we click on save, it should trigger it. So let's just save. Okay, because we have disabled the trigger, so this should not trigger the pipeline because we are just saving it. Okay, and our previous pipeline, did it fail again or what? Not this one. Where was it? Okay, I think it failed again. Let's see. Okay. It failed with the newer unexpected for all invalid subscription ID. Okay, now it failed with the subscription ID that we did not provide it. Remember, I told you there is a blank subscription ID that you have to change. So let me add my subscription ID over there. So let's go back to repos and lessons day 26 should be there in both the folders for dev over here and for staging as well. It'll be better if you can work with a version control or VS code, so that you can make all the changes at once, but for now I'm just gonna do it from here. So let me just grab my subscription ID, Azure portal. Okay, subscription. Okay, subscription ID and TFR. So here, let's commit the changes. Okay, let's commit the changes for for staging as well. Vars edit subscription up. Okay, and we were about to add one more, right, role as well in staging. Mm, it was, so let me, okay, let's first add that role and then we'll see. It was there for AKS, and oh no, it was there in the dev main.tf. So roles kv, this one. Now let's go back to staging main.tf and let's add the same role over here. Okay, and modules, I've changed it, right? I have changed it to be dependent on, I don't know why it does not show the change, but anyways, so let me make it dependent on, oh no, we changed it in the keyword, right? So let's make the change again here again, dependent on Azure RM role assignment dot roles kv. Okay, so these were all the changes. Okay, so now it might have triggered and queued a couple of pipelines. So let's just one, two, three actually. So it has queued all of these three. So let's cancel this, cancel, and okay, let's cancel everything and trigger it again. So this is cancelled. Now cancel this one and let's cancel this one. Okay, let's trigger the pipeline. Branch is main. This is the main pipeline, right? Let's go to pipelines. Now we have two pipelines. One is this one, so let's rename it for the destroy pipeline. So let's rename it, from where we can rename it. Let's see, rename. Name should be destroy. Okay, I've changed the name so that we know the difference between both the pipelines. Now let's run this pipeline. Okay, okay, now I'm gonna pause the recording for one last minute, one last time. Okay, it failed again. I did not expect it to fail this time, but let's see what's going on. It says service returned an error. Authorization, the client with object ID required to perform Microsoft authorization role assignment, right? over scope. Role assignment scope is invalid. So this is the permission that we have provided for Microsoft Graph. Let's see why it is failing to provide the permission. um does not have authorization over scope. Let's search for this error. Okay, it basically talks about the same thing. Authorization, please refresh. I assign owner role to the service principal under subscription. Okay, so we need to provide the service principal a role. Let's provide the service principal admin role. Okay, if you feel owner is better to create custom roles, you can provide the custom role. Okay, so let's go to the service principal. So search for Entra again, and then go to app registrations, all applications, and I believe this one over here. Or wait, we have to provide it at the subscription level, right? So let's go to the subscription. This is the subscription, and then go to IAM. Okay, role assignment. Currently I only have the service principal, only have the contributor role and the keyword administrator role that I've added. So let's add a role assignment and then search for the role like owner or add privileged role, right? So let's provide owner role to the service principal, or you can provide a particular administrator role like I think this one will also work, user access administrator, but you can test it out yourself. I think this should work, but for now I'm going to provide owner role, but I've told you like what you should be doing. So test it out. If it works, then it's good. Otherwise, you can create a custom role based on the permissions that it requires. Okay, now let's add the service principal over here. So this is my personal user, but we need a service principal for which we need to provide the access. So let's open this in a new tab and go to Entra, application registrations, all applications, and the one that was created today and it's current. So this one over here, the one that was created by Azure DevOps. So let me just copy the entire name and search it over here. It's there. Select it. It's select again. And yeah, it selected the member. Next is what users can do. That's okay. Let's keep it default. Next, oh, it says a condition is required for restricted delegation. Let's go back and allow user to assign all role except privilege administrator. Okay, let's select this one, but it excluded the user access administrator and owner role. We don't want to do that. Let's use this one. Okay, and review and assign. Okay, this is done, and I'm gonna trigger the pipeline one more time and pause the recording till it is done. So let's trigger it first, run the pipeline, and let's see how it goes. All right, this time it worked. So our app deployment is completed on like not app deployment, our dev infrastructure provisioning is done for the dev stage, and now it is working on the staging environment. So there was one more change that I did. I forgot to resume the recording, so it was not recorded, but this is the change that I did. Actually, the role assignment that we did at the service principal level on the Terraform file, that was required if we are managing the keyword further with that service principal. But to provision the service principal, we have to assign the same role to the service connection based service principal. The service connection service principal that was created by Azure DevOps pipeline, to which we added the role, right? We added the owner role. So we actually have to add one more role to it, which is keyword administrator role. Okay, so I've done the same. So I think yeah, this is what I did. So I've added the role, not this one. I guess this is the application role that it had. Okay, so that's what I did, and after that I triggered the pipeline. It worked. Now it is doing the same for stage. It is creating and everything is doing for the stage deployment. Now while it is doing, we can just quickly verify the resources. You go to your Azure portal, go to resource group. So you see we have a resource group for dev Piyush RG, dev Piyush RG, NRG is for node resource group. So in AKS cluster, uh, a separate resource group will be getting created for the Kubernetes nodes, the worker nodes. Similarly, we have two for stage Piyush RG. So dev Piyush RG, it will have, let's say, the resources. It will have a AKS cluster, a key vault, and if we go to NRG, it will have AKS agent pool, NSG network security group, virtual machine scale sets that are part of the AKS cluster working as the worker nodes. Then it will have a VNet, load balancer, and public IP address. And what else we had? We had service principal, but service principal comes under enter ID and has the key vault. In the key vault, you will have the secret object. So if you go to objects, go to secrets, this will be a secret access key and ID for the service principal. Now let's try to see if we are able to log into the cluster. So this is the Kubernetes cluster, and I think we need to go to, either we can click on connect and open it in command shell, and then we can just basically run it. So let's do that. Open in the cloud shell. Okay, it will take, let's say, a few seconds to connect and start the terminal, and it's not, you see, very user friendly. So okay, let's see how is our pipeline going. Meanwhile, it is okay. This is the old one. Okay, this is the new one. It's still going on. It's creating the key vault. No, it's creating the AKS cluster. Okay, that's all right. Okay, so here we have logged in. So if we just, let's clear the screen. I hope this is visible. Okay, so if I do kubectl get nodes, okay, I have one node in the dev node pool. And if I see kubectl get pods hyphen all namespaces, I see all the pods are running. These are the control plane pods like kubeproxy, metric server, core DNS, Azure ID, connectivity agent, kube, and Azure IP mask agent. So everything is running. You can try to create your own application. You can try to create your own pods and see if it is working fine or not. But this is your dev cluster, right? Now the same way, once this is done, oh, it is done as well. So let's log into our prod cluster as well. Oh, sorry, stage cluster, which should be, if we go to home, resource groups and stage, and then go to the cluster, hit connect, open cloud shell. Okay, if we do kubectl, oh, get nodes, this is dev because we have not authenticated with the cluster credentials. So let's copy this command, let's run this, and it will override the existing kube config. So now if we do kubectl get nodes, you should see the stage cluster over here, you see. And if I'm gonna do kubectl get pods for all, so these are the pods, everything is running for the stage cluster as well. And now we have two environments provision. Now time to finally kick off the destroy pipeline. So click over there, run pipeline, and you need to select an environment that you want to destroy. So let's say I want dev or staging. So click on dev, hit run. Okay, now I want my dev environment to be destroyed, and it says the pipeline needs permission. So let's grant it the permission. Okay, so this should destroy. So let me pause the recording, and because we want to make sure that your destroy pipeline is working as well, and it should be able to destroy all the resources. Otherwise there'll be a lot of cost that you will be accumulated, because it has AKS cluster, multiple AKS clusters, right? So let me pause the recording and then we'll see. Okay, so it took around 12 minutes, and as you can see, everything is destroyed. Both the stages have been completed. Plan and destroy. If you can check it, and you see, there were 9 resources to be destroyed, and at the end, everything was destroyed. There are no errors. And if you can go back to your portal and resource group, hit refresh. Okay, so there is no resource group for dev. It's been completely wiped off, both the resource groups. Now what you can do is you can execute the same pipeline, and now this time run it for staging. Okay, so it will destroy the staging resources as well. And make, yeah, you don't have to provide the permissions because we did that for the first time. And let me show you all the changes that we made, right? Because it's important to know those changes as well. Otherwise you'll miss it. Okay, so we started with, okay, let me just move it over here, right? We did the login. Actually, I was already logged in, but this is where you will start. You will start with AZ login, and then you actually set the variables. Now let me just add it before I forget it over here. So I'll just move this agenda over here. And what variables did we set? We actually set, first is subscription ID. We did set in both dev and stage folder, right? I hope my handwriting is clear. If not, let me just write it again. Sorry about that. Okay, so subscription ID for both dev and staging folder. Okay, then we did set the .ssh folder, .ssh, and id rsa.pub, and this was also done for both the folders for dev and staging, right? So you start with there, then you run the .sh file, which will generate basically the backend for dev and backend for stage. Then if you want, you can execute the Terraform manually, like we have said before, if you are new to Terraform. Otherwise you will just start by writing the pipelines, and then execute it. But before executing the pipeline, we need to make some permission changes. What permissions did we provided? We provided the service principal. So this is the service principal. We provided service principal admin or owner role. Okay, and also key vault admin role. So that's one, and this is second. And which is this service principal? This service principal is the one that was created with the help of service connection when we were executing the Azure DevOps pipeline. Okay, service connection. All right, so that's the first service principal to that. And then go to the enter ID for the same service principal and provide read write permissions at the API level. And there was a resource for it. The API name was Microsoft Graph. Okay, make sure you provide the permission to this particular API. Okay, so I guess yes, these were all the steps that we needed, and like some many things we figured out with trial and error. When we faced the issue, we did some troubleshooting and then we finally fixed it. Okay, so let me just put it back and let's see if our stage pipeline is completed now. Where were we? Okay, now it failed. What's the issue? Resource not found. Terraform state RG. Why? Under resource group, Terraform stage. Maybe we did some mistake. Okay, let's go to the pipelines. This one, edit. All right. So it failed during the initialization, I believe, over here. So parameters dot environment name is staging. Okay, I guess that's the issue because at some places it's stage, at some places it's staging. Over here in day 26, this is the folder that we have in repo, and the folder name is staging, I believe. Let's quickly check. Yeah, folder name is staging, so this is fine. Now the resource group name is Terraform state, and then the storage account name is TF. That should be stage, right? This should be stage. This is not the same. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that we are using consistent name across, like if it is staging, or like we have to do some duplication of steps. So let me see what can we do. Now it will be not easy to update the Terraform storage account name to update the key. Instead, what we can do is we can just change the name over here and then change the name of the folder. Okay, so instead of this, let's do a stage. Let's just save and validate. Okay, save the changes and then change the folder name as well. Um, Repos, lessons, day 26, and let's just rename this folder to stage. All right, go to pipelines. Oh, it triggered. Oh, it triggered the first pipeline. Oh, no, 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 we don't need this. Let's cancel this run. Move it. Oh, yeah. Yeah, because the trigger is there in the Azure YAML or day 26 folder, whatever, right? So it's fine. Now let's trigger the destroy pipeline again with the stage environment. Now the stage name should be consistent with the folder name as well as the backend name. Let me pause the recording for another few seconds now. Okay, so this pipeline has also been completed, and if you can see the resource groups, all the staging resource group has gone. Now what you can do is you can clean up the final pieces, which is the test RG. um, like this is the resource group for backend. Don't need this anymore, so you can just delete this manually, or you can create a small shell script to delete this from CLI if you want. And there was one more thing, the service principal that we had, the service connection one. So I'm gonna clean that up as well. I am role assignment. So I think if I just delete the service principal, that should delete the role as well. So let's just go to Entra, app registrations, all applications, and let's just sort it by created. So the other service principal that we created from the Terraform, that has been deleted because it was part of the Terraform, and this is the one that we need to delete. Okay, so let me just go delete, and it has the permission, consent, user and group assignments. Let's delete everything. So yeah, think that should be it. That should do the cleanup for you. And we are almost at the 2 hour mark. So this video, it took longer than I expected, but it took me more time to record it because I remember I paused the recording in between when the logs were streaming, and then I had to redo many times it. So it took me around 3 hours to record the entire video. But if you found it helpful, if you found it valuable, make sure you share it with your friends, colleague, like, comment, and make sure this video reach to the maximum audience so that I keep doing videos like this. This was a fun video recording for me as well, because I didn't have to trim anything. I don't have to do anything at all. I'm just recording as I'm just uploading as I have recorded the raw, unfiltered, unedited, untrimmed footage. So I'll upload it, and I'm sure you will have a good learning experience. So make sure you do the hands-on, otherwise it will be, yeah, it won't be much helpful then. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. I wish you have a good day, happy learning, and I will see you soon.